Welcome to the Forged by Trust podcast. I'm your host, Robin Dreek, retired master spy recruiter and trust expert. This episode of Forged by Trust is brought to you by the People Formula online courses. Whether you are an individual looking to advance your personal skills or you are a leader looking to enhance your team, using stories and anecdotes from my career as a spy recruiter, my online courses are your answer. From a quick rapport to forging trust to assessing others, my self-paced curriculum sets you on your path to success. And here's the bonus. The first course, The Keys to Communication, is absolutely free. So check them out here at peopleformula.com or email me your questions at robin@peopleformula.com. Coming up next on the Forged by Trust podcast.
And when something so-called bad happens, you ask yourself, what does this make possible that would not have been possible otherwise? That's a secret to being a great leader, is you find out what are the goals, hopes, and dreams of your people, and you show them how they can achieve their goals, their hopes, their dreams by aligning with what the overall mission is. So that's where I came to understand that leadership is not about position or title, and not falling prey to the 5 hazards of power poisoning. We are actually contributing to this problem of power poisoning by denying these people access to accurate information about what the heck is going on and feedback on how they are impacting us, our teams, our organizations.
Welcome to the show. I'm Robin Dreek, and on the Forged by Trust podcast, we decode the interpersonal communication skills of the world's most acclaimed forgers of trust. We unlock the skills and techniques from spies, spy recruiters, master interrogators, globally recognized behavioral experts, C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, acclaimed authors, and thought leaders. Each episode provides specific actions that you can immediately apply to any aspect of your personal or professional life. Today's episode, Power Poisoning, is with the amazing and energetic Kimberly Wiefling. Kimberly's a serial entrepreneur, the founder of Wiefling Consulting, and co-founder of Silicon Valley Alliances. She is known for her authentically scrappy style. At Hewlett-Packard, she felt like a hired assassin where she prioritized projects over people. After 10 years working in technology, she realized that technology fails far less frequently than people do. She uses her experiences as a scientist and technologist to navigate and transform the messy world of organizational culture. Her superpower is helping companies achieve what seems impossible by converting common sense into common practice and bringing people with diverse backgrounds together to achieve what couldn't be done alone. Kimberly has worked with over 100 major corporations, including Yamaha Motors, Suntory, Mitsubishi, NASA, and Indeed. She has produced 6 books in her Scrappy brand series, including the international bestseller Scrappy Project Management, which continues to sell well 14 years after the original publication was translated into Japanese and is used as a textbook in project management courses. During the episode, we talk about leadership, team effectiveness and organizational culture, the 5 hazards of power poisoning, who to hire, how to maintain the focus on others, the importance of mentors and guides, taking ownership, and overcoming learned helplessness. Kimberly.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm feeling really lucky to be orbiting in your universe.
Wow. I normally the one that starts out with a, wow, I feel so lucky to be orbiting in your universe. So we're orbiting each other today. What a great, fantastic day it must be then.
Oh my God, look at the background. That's beautiful. Power.
Oh, you like that? One of my greatest joys is putting together a little graphic for us to, for those that tune into the YouTube channel where they're going to watch this and not just listen to on the podcast channel. I always throw a little graphic back there.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to see which picture you chose, because that tells me a little bit about people when I see which picture they choose to put in there.
Oh, so for those just listening, not watching, I chose the one of Kimberly, which is a very nice green, I'd say not super business, but business casual top. And her hair is, it's loose and she's got natural curls. It's kind of like my wife's, because my wife has naturally blonde curly hair as well. And her name is also Kim. Hers is
really?
Kim, not Kimberly.
Oh.
So what's that tell you about me then?
You know, I think that the fact that you're inviting me on your podcast tells me that you like people who are authentic and who show up as their true selves. And of course, well, how could you be a person committed to trust if you weren't interested in people's authenticity?
That's a great observation. And the fun part about that is no matter how people show up, I'm going to do my best to find you.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Inside.
yeah. Some people are pretty well hidden, aren't they? I mean, there's a lot of reasons to protect ourselves from
Well,
being seen.
and it's so true. A lot of people, I mean, we all have insecurities. And a lot of us are just a little more ashamed than others of those insecurities. And so we try to hide them. We put a face on. And because we forget that what forges the most important thing in the world for relationships is trust. And the most important thing to forge trust is transparency, because when you have transparency and you demonstrate vulnerability, you empower other people with knowledge, and knowledge gives them a sense of control and a feeling of the most important thing for trust is safety. And so when people feel that they can understand you at your core, your strengths, your weaknesses, and everything about you, you will have trust and safety. So there you go.
Well, Robin, you just summed it up as a systems thinker would.
Exactly. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Power poisoning, which is the title of the episode, because power does poison. And a lot of times we don't understand that we're poisoning because we're self-centered. We're taking care of our own needs. And this sometimes shows up as people that are self-reliant and resilient, because we're in survival mode, and that makes us self-centered. When in reality, if you really want to thrive and survive and do well and prosper, you need to be as my friend Bob Berg says in The Go-Giver, you need to bring immense abundance to others in what they need. Anyway, with that,
That's
Kimberly,
right.
welcome to the show. What
Thank
a great
you,
kickoff.
Robin.
That's a unique kickoff. You're analyzing each other at the very get-go.
I'm nothing if not unique, Robin.
We all are. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
And so with that, we're rolling.
Right.
And I'd love to, since we teased it really well. So Kimberly, what's your origin story about how you became the successful individual you are today? Humbling moments along, please.
I was going to just summarize it by saying I dove off a cliff and I invented wings and learned to fly on the way down, but I'll give you a little more detailed version, okay?
I like that analogy, though. It's good visual.
Yeah, I was born in rural areas around Pittsburgh. My dad was a welder. My brothers were welders. And if I was a boy, I would have been a welder. But hey, since I was a girl, I joined the U.S. Air Force the day I turned 18. Yes, I do have a marksman's ribbon, Robin, but I do not shoot anything but animals if I'm hunting. I got my money for college through the U.S. military, GI Bill, got to go to 7 years of college and studied physics. For crying out loud. I should have studied psychology. What was I thinking? Because then I ended up getting a job at Hewlett Packard, product development, program management, engineering of various kinds. In fact, I was one of the first 2 women repairmen hired by Hewlett Packard's Analytical Products Group. Can you imagine? I'm driving around with all these wrenches and tools and a gear puller, and my customers back then, I guess it was back in the late 80s, saying, look, she's going to use wrenches. They were so excited. Little did they know I had spent a lot of time sitting in the cockpit of an F-4 fighter jet troubleshooting the audio systems, praying to God I wouldn't be launched into the hangar roof by the Martin Baker ejection seat. But
hey, I got to stop you right there a second. I'm an aviation aficionado, space, everything like that. What'd you do in the Air Force?
I was transmitter receivers, intercom troubleshooting and repair. So I would go out to the flight line and I would mostly service the F-4 jets, CH-57 helicopters, OV-10 aircraft. And I would see what was wrong. I would pull out the piece that was needing repair, take it back to the shop and fix it, and then go back and put it back in there. So I learned electronics. Yeah, I didn't really have to put myself in any danger, except I was serving in Germany and I'm driving to work one day. And F-4 jet comes screaming overhead really close, and then it stops in midair and like Wile E. Coyote drops like a rock because, the glide ratio is just about 0. And
F-4s are known as the flying bricks.
Yes. Flying bricks. You're exactly right. So here these pilots, thankfully, these pilots thought more of us than themselves because they stayed with the jet longer than they should have so that they could miss the highway with dozens of cars on it. And they were actually killed in the fireball as they ejected too late. Oh, wow. My girlfriend's car was on fire 4 cars ahead of me, and I'm jumping out. And my husband at the time is yelling, get back in the car. Because, of course, they were loaded for the gunnery range and ammunition is going off. And, it kind of put me off of flying after that, Robin.
And this was in Germany, you said?
That's right. And so every time a plane would fly overhead, even at, 45,000 feet, I would start running or driving like crazy to get away from it.
And how old were you at the time?
Oh, like 20.
And yet again, every single successful individual on this show has done two things. And the first thing that they've done is they've got out the door. They've traveled and experienced strange and unusual things at an early age. And, this was a story about you I had no idea about who you are as a human being, as an adventurer, as a problem-solving innovator. That's exactly what you were doing. It desensitizes you to stress and anxiety to a level, I think, that helps you problem solve. So continue this amazing journey, if you would.
Well, I think being a foreigner was very educational for me.
Yeah.
I never really appreciated being a citizen of the United States of America until I was living as a foreigner in Germany for a couple of years. And when I landed in the US, I just started crying because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm home. I'm not a big, huge, like I'm a US citizen kind of person, but I did feel very grateful to be living in this country and to be in my home country. So I got out of the military, used every drop of the GI Bill, got my education, went to work at Hewlett Packard for 10 years, 7 different jobs. They refused to change Hewlett Packard for me, so I quit. And I joined.
Dang it. They didn't do that for you.
Can you believe it? I honestly thought that Hewlett Packard, 100,000 person company, was going to change for me. And I thought they did need to change, but they're wildly successful. So Nokia didn't need to change, right? When they had 52% market share, and 7 years later, it was only 2%, but who cares?
The whole new story there as well. That and BlackBerry. I just read a whole lot about those.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I think starting my business in the height of the dot-com bust in 2001 was probably the worst possible thing I could do. But I was so tired of working in corporate America and the HP and then 3 failed startups and seeing pathetic leadership. I mean, I couldn't even call it leadership. People occupying the chair of a leader, but not leading. And I just decided to go out on my own. And hey, the first 5 years were the hardest. And now here it is 20 some years later. I'm doing product development lifecycle for some clients. Most of the time I spend time with leadership, team effectiveness, organizational culture, mostly with Japanese companies that are globalizing. Can you imagine me, this blonde woman from the US, mostly working with Japanese companies, big companies, Fortune 500, Global 1000 companies? Because in the US, I'm just this crazy, wild woman. In Japan, I'm an honorable sensei with great passion.
Those with this positive outlook that there is nothing that goes wrong, there's just things that happen that we learn from. That is the outlook that I know you have. And so you didn't see that as a negative thing. You saw it as, wow, I get to learn more. As one of the wealthiest men in the world, and I know he's controversial these days, but he runs an electric car company and a space company. Their motto there is fail fast, because that way we learn faster.
That's so wise. I help my clients. I mean, they're not all Japanese people, but they're Japanese companies. I said, take necessary risks, learn from mistakes, experiment, prototype, fail forward. And when something so-called bad happens, you ask yourself, what does this make possible that would not have been possible otherwise?
Absolutely. You shine light on the things that go well, and you just quickly figure out those things that go sideways. And you got out the door and did it. That's just, of course you did. That's what you do. And then you talked about the leadership challenges that you saw. What were the things you saw, and what did you figure out you needed to do differently?
Well, one of the things that alarmed me was nobody felt responsible for creating the toxic work environments that I found myself
no ownership.
No ownership. I mean, literally, if I would talk to my manager, it wasn't his fault. It was the executives. And the executives, well, it's because of the president. And the president, of course, has other reasons. But I had a theory that I formed, Robin. Aliens landed on Earth and set up sick, twisted, dysfunctional organizations and then left.
Yes, they did, didn't they?
Oh my gosh. And when I just saw the way some people behaved, I mean, one guy I worked with, he actually took his badge off and slammed it on the table and said, because I'm the founder, as if that gives you the right to act like a jerk and be insensitive and lack empathy. No, sorry, that doesn't work in my book.
It's funny. Again, I apologize for the proud parent moments. I was at my son's graduation a couple weeks ago. He graduated from the Naval Academy and he went Marine Corps. And so they had a Marine Corps awards ceremony. And there's about 230, I think it was, or 270 midshipmen going Marine Corps. And out of those, they had about 10 that were getting awards. And these are nice awards for X, Y, and Z things they accomplished at the Naval Academy and doing Marine Corps-like things. But it was absolutely perfect and very Marine Corps-esque and very leadership focused. When the final speaker got up, he was a 3-star general. He got up there and he said, well, ladies and gentlemen, lieutenant candidates and officer candidates, this all sounds very well and nice, and be proud of these awards. But you know what? No one cares.
Oh, interesting.
He goes, your staff sergeants, your Marines, when you get to the fleet in a couple of weeks, they don't care. They just care about your leadership style. Are you making it about them? Are you mission focused? Are you mission oriented? And are you selfless as a leader? They don't care about what you achieved. They care what you're going to do to help them achieve.
Absolutely. That's a secret to being a great leader, is you find out what are the goals, hopes, and dreams of your people, and you show them how they can achieve their goals, their hopes, their dreams by aligning with what the overall mission is.
What's the first time you experienced that? Because obviously you saw some great people that were doing it a little sideways on the leadership side. Who modeled the way for you?
Yeah, well, I guess I had to go and get modeling from reading about people that I didn't really know. But ultimately, when
That's good too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I studied a little bit about the military, for example, because the military does not use command and control in situations of high danger. In the military, they say the leader is the person who knows what to do next and does it, and everybody pivots around them. So that's where I came to understand that leadership is not about position or title. Right. In an org chart, it is about acting like a leader, communicating like a leader, and thinking like a leader, and not falling prey to the 5 hazards of power poisoning, which I'm sure we will talk about.
Let's hit them.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan.
We're talking about the power poisoning. I think it's an important topic, so I love action items. What are these 5 action items?
Well, I'm a big fan of data, so everybody should know. And I say this all the time, this is all based on research and data. And this is actually based on data from Bob Sutton at Stanford University. And I happen to know Bob personally and know he's a very rigorous researcher. And in fact, he kindly quoted one of my books in one of his books, which he didn't need to do. He just did it as one of these wonderful, famous people that wanted to shine a little light my way.
And Kimberly, stop right there.
Yeah.
Give me the name of your books right now, please.
Scrappy Project Management, the 12 predictable and avoidable pitfall every project faces. That's the main one that I've written.
Excellent. And that'll be in the show notes, and everyone can grab a link to that and get your copy today.
Then I got a little annoyed when women weren't getting enough viz in the workplace for their leadership. So I inspired Scrappy Women in Business with 11 of my friends to write about, hey, we can be scrappy women, and yeah, let's get some stuff done together, huh?
I love it. Anyway, keep going with your story. I just want to make sure I didn't miss the opportunity to highlight your great work.
So sweet. So what Bob Sutton found was people with power are different in 5 ways. The first is they receive more positive feedback than other people. Now, I wonder why that is. So imagine there's a bunch of monkeys in a tree, right? And you're the top monkey and you're looking down. Robin, what would you see? If you're looking down, a bunch of monkeys in a tree, what do you see?
A lot of other monkeys.
A lot of smiling faces, Robin.
Right.
Smiling faces looking up at you. And then if you're the bottom monkey, the lowest monkey in that tree looking up, no, let's not say it on the air, but you know what you would see.
Yep.
Now, so
the opposite smile, the other different kind of smile.
Yeah, different kind of smile. And one president is famous for saying, the day I was promoted to president was the last day anybody told me the truth. And so we are actually contributing to this problem of power poisoning by denying these people access to accurate information about what the heck is going on and feedback on how they are impacting us, our teams, our organizations. So shame on us.
Yep.
And then second is they have lower impulse control.
Mm-hmm.
There's no consequences. If you're the top banana there, you don't have any consequences if you lose your cool or do something inappropriate. And number 3 was they think of their own needs more than others. Now, here are people whose job it is to think of the needs of their team, their organization, and their customers, their other stakeholders, and thinking of their own needs more than others. Shocking.
Yep, no doubt.
And the 4th is that they have lower empathy. You can't walk in the shoes of those other people. You forget what it's like to be a kind of normal person. And that gets really toxic. And then fifth, and this is the worst in my opinion, they think the rules don't apply to them.
Right. Holier than thou.
And it's like, now the number one thing you need to be as a great leader is to model the way. And if you think the rules don't apply to you and you're not following the rules, what kind of model are you for your people? And so what Bob did is he said, geez, do we just promote these kind of weirdos, or does power change people? And being the rigorous researcher that he is, he found indisputably that power changes people. And we, as wonderful as we are vulnerable. If we get more and more power, we are vulnerable to that. And we need to put things in place to make sure that we do not fall prey to these 5 things. Get less negative feedback, lower impulse control, think of our own needs more than others, lower empathy, and think the rules don't apply to us. Love to hear your take on that.
I totally agree 100%. My 3 leadership pillars are that leaders accomplish goals, missions, and priorities. The second is that they create a safe environment, psychological comfort and safety for all so that people can innovate. And the third is their resources for the success of others without any expectation or reciprocity. And so those 5 feed right into my pillars. Ooh. And the fascinating thing is that, okay, so we define the challenge. So what do you do about it? As you're rising up in ranks, and people that are generally promoted inside of corporations are promoted because they can produce results at the level that they're at. And as soon as they move up, they kind of start, like you said, they start changing, they start forgetting that. And the things that made them successful at producing results, which a lot of the times is themselves and self-reliance and tenacity, type A personalities, doesn't work when you have to shift the focus from what you're doing and shift the focus on to being a resource for other people doing. So what kind of things out of these are great 5 topics, what kind of things can a leader prepare themselves to do so they won't fall into that trap?
Well, actually, this is designed into most corporate structures. So aside from the individuals involved, there's a hierarchy. There's an org chart. And for me, it's so clear that the org chart is the root of this kind of power poisoning. And for me, what I do is I say the org chart is perfect if you're on your way to work and you get a flat tire and you need to know who should I call to tell them I'm going to be late. But other than that, ignore that org chart and do skip level things, do things to flatten your organization in whatever way you can, because there's a really simple game that I play in some of my workshops, which is 4 people in 3 levels of hierarchy, 10 minutes, everyone's annoyed. And you take that hierarchy out of it and you get people sitting in a circle, everything changes. Unfortunately, your title clanks along behind you in the hallway and you just can't be free of it in organizations. So get rid of the titles, ignore the org chart as much as possible, and focus on relationship building. I was the worst. I mean, when I first started working at Hewlett-Packard, they hired me like a hired assassin. Yeah, let's bring in Kimberly because she can get stuff done. Of course, people don't like me and they don't want to be seen dining with me, but hey, I can really get results at the expense of relationships. Took me about 10 years to learn that I could get results through relationships that were much more high quality and lasting, and a much better outcome for myself as well.
No doubt. Relationships are the bedrock of absolutely everything. Do you think talent density also plays an impact on the ability to keep an organization flat, or can it all be relationship based?
Well, I think depends on what you call talent. If you purely hire technical talent, you're really in trouble. I am swimming in wonderful, brilliant, smart people, technical talent in Silicon Valley. And a lot of them struggle with what some people call soft skills. I like to call human skills. And some of them like to call the touchy-feely crap. And this is really crucial that when you hire people, you not only look for technical talent, you also look for people that understand the value of processes and that understand the importance of people. I mean, I didn't for the first 10 years of my work environment. And I said things to my workers like, oh, you're screwing up on this project. Why? Oh, because if I don't go home earlier, my girlfriend's going to break up with me. And I would say things like, you can get another girlfriend after the project's over. I mean, complete lack of empathy, complete lack of any concern for their human side of their life. So I think that's really important that we start to understanding we have a whole person that we need to hire, and we need to have talent mean more than just technical.
Absolutely. The balancing the dichotomy, no doubt.
If you hire somebody that can code in this language and 6 months later, they can learn to code in another language. If they are really a jerk, they're not going to change in 6 months, chances are. So it's so important that you hire for values fit to the organization. Like you were talking about psychological safety, and people respect the values of the organization, not just something hanging on a wall, but something that we live by. And something that if you violate these values, we will fire our best engineer, fire our best salesperson because you violated our values.
And sharing what you do at that level requires an immense amount of self-awareness. What was your journey to where you are now with self-awareness, and how do you keep it in check every day? And self-awareness from the standpoint of how do you keep the focus on others? How do you know it's not all about you?
Well, it's very interesting. Whenever I worked at HP, I was not really liked. And when I go back, I was ruthless. I was just ruthless about getting stuff done at the expense of people's relationships and lives. Then when I worked at one startup, the second startup, I was really effective at getting stuff done, but they didn't really value me or like me. It was just using me. And I went to my third startup where I was the vice president of program management and organizational effectiveness, a title I added on because I wanted to really be different. I committed that at the end of that work, I was going to have these relationships intact. And so when I went to that, it was called group fire, which we were ultimately fired as a group at the .com bust, but it was, I ended up creating things like a weekly, we'd have stand-up meeting, and then a monthly, let's go on a bus trip and go out and have some fun together. Then let's have a gratitude appreciation program in the office. You can give people a certificate, go get a little present out of this toy chest and give them something. And I started really creating a very positive, powerful environment there, because I wanted to make sure at the end of it, I had the relationships as well as the results. And it took tremendous consciousness and focus for me to stay on that course. I remember at one point, there was someone on the leadership team as a consultant who was racist. And I went into the CEO and I said, I will not be coming to your executive meetings anymore as long as this person is present. And I got him to fire that racist person. And of course, that didn't really ingratiate me with the CEO because we needed that skill set. But I'm like, I'm sorry, we cannot have this on our property. I was always available for walk-in talks. My first priority was other people's needs. So my email could pile up, but if there was someone come to my door, I would always have, of course, I didn't have a door. I would always have my face to the door. And if they would come, I'd say, you want to go for a walk and talk? Sure. And we would go out there for a long hour's walk. And about halfway out, I would start asking the tough questions. Hey, what's going on? What's working? What's not working? What's missing? Share. And just listen to them. And I was losing weight walking so much because so many people had so much to process. It is hard working with other human beings. I mean, last week I was in Tokyo working with Toyota for the first time. I was in Tokyo since 2020. And I was introducing myself and talking about, 7 years studying physics. I dropped to my knees on the floor and shouted, I wish I had studied psychology, because it's just so clear to me that the human beings are the key to success. And we can always fix the technology. Almost never saw a project fail for technology. Absolutely. It's always about human beings.
Kimberly, I remember my first seriously humbling moment where I realized I had it wrong, where I was ranked last out of every single second lieutenant in my squadron in the Marine Corps. And that was a humbling moment. Yeah, ranked dead last. And I remember talking to my major and he goes, well, you just need to make it about everyone else but yourself. And I was like, it was a dumbfounding statement because I had no idea what he was talking about. But he laid down the gauntlet of figuring out what that meant and what that looked like to someone else. You've mentioned it numerous times where you learned that you were treating people not so well. How did you learn that?
Well, I was at HP for 10 years doing miraculous things, which were considered kind of difficult or impossible. And after 10 years and doing amazing things, I was only finally promoted to a first level manager. I mean, I saw presidents of divisions and vice presidents that couldn't get anything done and wouldn't make a decision to save their lives, because if you make a decision, you could be wrong. And I had more leadership in my little finger than they had in their whole body. And they did not want me to lead in that organization. And one of my mentors told me, Kimberly, it's because we don't trust what you'll do to people. So that was hard. Yeah. And after 2 tries in a startup where I thought it would be different, and I still had I got the same kind of experience of, sure, you can get a lot of stuff done, but nobody wants to work with you. I finally decided I am committed to making sure that I create the kind of trust and psychological safety and supporting other people that I would want. I never got that myself, actually, because of course I was punished for being this. But if you look at why teams fail, it's completely a failure of leadership. And the number one cause is they fail to build trust. I finally got it that if I was just going to be all about results, I should just be an assassin. Because I shouldn't be doing jobs where I have to interact with other people on a regular basis.
Your story is not unusual, but it is yours. And so never feel alone. That's why I love this, because we're all in the same boat. We've all had those moments. What was the first thing you did, though, to start writing your own ship?
I started taking classes about communication in teams and cooperation, collaboration. I was reading all kinds of books. You ever read the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team?
No, I haven't read that one.
Patrick Lencioni, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I was shocked there were only 5 dysfunctions. And then I got a mentor. I've got many mentors over the years, and coaching.
Was that the first time?
Oh, I got mentors when I was struggling back in Hewlett Packard. But now my mentor that I had just before COVID hit was this 90-year-old guy called Dr. Edgar Schein. And he is a retired professor from MIT who invented the term organizational culture. He wrote the little intro to my book, Inspired Organizational Cultures. And he helped me understand that all of the work I was doing, it was all about creating and supporting and strengthening organizational cultures.
Yes. And the other thing that I think is so critical for people to take away always in everything that we do is that, yes, we make it about everyone else but ourselves. We be these great resources for others, but it takes a team effort. You cannot be successful in life without what I call the loving critic. Those teachers, mentors, and guides to us in our lives that give us that intellectual honesty and objectivity that we need, but they are supremely vested in our success. In other words, they don't say the things they do to hurt us for their own sense of insecurities. They do it for us. And sometimes it's unsolicited, but it is always out of love that they give us that feedback because they want us to be successful. And the most challenging thing is, can you take it in the spirit in which it's being delivered? I have finally gotten to that point with my wife, who gives me great, honest feedback, and I still cringe when it's coming. And that's what you finally saw it as well.
Well, in 1995, actually, long ago, Barbara Fittipaldi, I was in a workshop that she was facilitating, and I was like this helpless victim. Everybody was picking on me. They didn't appreciate me. And she comes to me and she says, "You don't own your own power. Don't you ever let me hear you talking bad about yourself again." And I was this helpless victim. And I learned this chicken drop trick. I'm going to hold a chicken at waist level and I'm going to let it go and it's going to fall. And I asked people all over the world, what caused this chicken to fall? And you know what they always say, Robin?
Gravity.
Gravity. It was gravity.
I cheated. I remember you did it before.
Yeah, it's okay. But everybody usually says that anyhow. So gravity, I said, sure. There are always things outside of our control. Gravity, I'm a physicist. I'm not going to try to change the gravitational constant of the universe. But what I learned is the chicken will fall because I released it. Yes, there's gravity and I can hold on to the freaking chicken. So I started to take more responsibility for how I was contributing to the problems I was experiencing and how I could contribute to creating a better outcome. Of course, it took me many years after that, Robin, to make progress. Just being conscious and aware of the need to change, or conscious and aware of power poisoning, doesn't fix it. It moves you from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence.
Right.
It's a very tough place to be. You have to keep on that path, keep going step by step. In Japan, we say hitotsu zotsu, right? Step by step. And if I knew then what I knew now, I would have been a far more empathetic leader, somebody who understood the value of relationships, psychological safety, and truly cared about my people and connecting them to the mission and the purpose.
You did a great job circling back to one of the themes that we started out with, and that is own it. And you started learning how to own it. And so how do you overcome that learned helplessness?
First, you have to be committed to something that matters more than your comfort.
Oh, that's good.
You got to be committed, something that you care about more than your comfort. And then you got to have an inner circle of people that you trust enough to ask for feedback. And you can say, hey, here's my big crazy dream. I have no idea how to do it. And I don't exactly know what to do next. Can you help me? And then you give them a little feedback starfish exercise, for example.
And I'm sorry with that, because this is a great question. How do you figure out who you can put in that circle? Who can you trust?
Oh my gosh. Well, you don't want to
feedback.
pick a bunch of people that are the same as you.
Right. I know, but that's a good question, because I mention this all the time about having this circle of trust and these loving critics. So how did you select someone for that circle?
Well, I think it's important to find people who share your mission or your purpose, and also who are aligned with your values. I cannot work with people or trust people that I don't have values alignment with. And what I'm realizing now is I need to do a much better job early in the relationship of vetting people about values alignment, rather than finding out 5 or 10 years later. It's like, no, we were not on the same page at all from a value standpoint.
Good.
So I know my values. I got them in my calendar. Number 1, integrity.
Right. So starfish, tell me about starfish.
Okay. Feedback starfish. Picture a starfish. At the center are your goals, your purpose, your dreams. And all around the outside, there are 5 areas. And you ask people, please help me. If you were absolutely committed to helping me achieve this goal, to be this kind of leader for this team, to contribute this to this organization, what advice would you give me? What should I continue doing? Am I doing anything right? And what should I start doing? What should I stop doing? What should I do more, do less? And then you make it all anonymous, put it out on a whiteboard or flip chart or whatever, so that they can give you honest advice about your change in your behaviors. Because how you think and feel, oh, that's real nice, but that doesn't really change anything if you change how you think and feel without changing how you act and how you communicate. So you ask them for very specific behavioral feedback. What should I start doing? Stop doing, do more, do less, continue, and make that big starfish. I've done that with presidents of companies, and they take it back to their office, and it's like a precious treasure because, again, the power of poisoning. No one's giving them honest feedback.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Kimberly, so 2 things before we wrap it up here. One, what's 1, 2, 3 top things you would say people should walk away and start implementing today that'll help them out in this journey?
When you first meet your team, spend the first hour on who are you? Who am I? Make myself vulnerable. Use the life journey line exercise where you give people the 2-minute story of your life starting at birth. Tell about the ups and downs. Even draw a graph that goes with it. Better yet, have everybody draw that graph and share. Here's my life story. Of course, you don't want them to share any trauma-inducing events, okay?
Right.
And then start looking at the island model of human beings. Above the waterline, we all look like we're different. Go down to the common ground of human beingness. What do we share? What do we have in common? That is so important. I work with a lot of teams, and I ask them, how much time have you spent building trust and building relationships? 0. We just got right on to the tasks. So spend the time building relationships, building trust, create psychological safety. It could be by carrying around a bunch of chickens, or making it safe by, having some decorations in the office that makes you look less scary. One executive I work with, the president of a company, very, very intimidating guy. I told him, you're too scary. So he shows up at the next time we had a meeting wearing little dog ears. And so I said, perfect. The president, a Japanese guy, showing up at his big all-employee meeting for his staff wearing dog ears. Beautiful. It kind of takes the edge right off of him.
Very nice. And now where can people go to find out more about you and tap into the great resources that you have to offer them?
Kimberly@Wiefling.com is my email address. KimberlyWiefling.com website. I'm the only Kimberly Wiefling on planet Earth, and I heard that there's a limit, only 1 to a planet, because it's kind of anything more would be toxic.
No, it wouldn't actually be. The universe doesn't want to bless a planet with 2, because then there'd be nothing to work on anymore, because they would just fix the entire planet.
You're so kind, Robin. Yes.
So, Kimberly, I want to thank you for taking time today to share your story and amazing tools and awareness that you had along your path and journey with the audience.
Can I just say one more thing?
Please do.
All of this stuff sounds very simple. It's not easy. And guess what? Smart people prefer complicated solutions. Your competitors will never think of using something so straightforward. This is a huge competitive advantage. Build relationships, build trust, communicate effectively. It will transform everything and you'll be more successful.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Forged by Trust. If you enjoyed the show, took away a few new tools, I hope you'll leave a great review of the show to show your support. If you're interested in more information about how to forge your own trust building strategies, please visit my website at www.peopleformula.com, and you can also reach me on any of my social media sites, included in the show notes. I'm looking forward to sharing my next Forged by Trust podcast with you next week when we chat with who some have described as the Larry King of podcasting, my friend Jordan Harbinger, about stories, secrets, and skills.